How are we doing, YouTube? It's your friendly gamer, SmartEntity here. Today I'm going to talk about Melee 2.0. Before I proceed any further, I just want to clarify one very important thing. In one of my previous videos, Optimized weapon modding, I mentioned that pressure point and killing blow does not add. Now that is no longer true. These two do add. And I'm going to prove that in the next couple clips. So first I'm going to do a quick run with this setup. Now in that video you saw I did a normal damage of just over 1900 and I did a couple crit, one over 3800, one over 4800. Now I'm going to do another clip with this setup. So without pressure point and without spoil strike, so without your two base damage boosters. So in that clip you saw I did a non-crit of just over 700 and a crit of just over 1200. So from that, it's basically conclusive evidence that channeling do take into consideration your base damage booster, so your pressure point and your spoil strike. Now because of that, there is basically no reason not to use these base damage boosters, and there's really no reason not to use channeling unless you can one-shot them without channeling. Now I've did a bit of testing myself and I did a bit of wiki search and a wiki read, and basically it seems the way channeling works now is that it is when you channel you do 1.5 of the damage that you would do without channeling, right? So your normal damage times 1.5. Now this is a bit different to when channeling first came out. Before, every weapon had their own damage, channeling damage. So I remember the Jet Tag was over 300. So that was one of the highest, and then followed closely by the Ursus Prime, which is just over 280. Now everything's changed. So from that, I definitely recommend doing a channeling build. So to do that, you definitely want your Fury for attack speed. With melee, there's no ammo efficiency to worry about, so you always want that increased speed. You want to put in your corrupt charge, pressure point, spoil strike, and killing blow. These boost that solid raw base damage. You want to put in your focus energy there for a increase in efficiency, as well as a bit of increase in electricity damage, which is a bonus. You want to put in your reflex coil, which is additional efficiency for channeling. And I'm using the Dragon Katana here. I would probably consider this one as definitely one of the best melee weapons right now, just because of the high base damage, which is magnified with OD's damage boosters. And the only stance that's available for this weapon is a Tranquil Clave, and with this you get an additional 10-point bonus. So with this setup, obviously you got each setup for each faction. With Tower, I would recommend using Fever Strike, just because that'll give you the corrosive damage, which does plus 75 against your corrupted heavy gunners, which is the only enemy that I found to be a bit of a pain in your high level void survival or high wave defense. So against Guinea, I'll use the same setup. Because you are still fighting those heavy gunners against Corpus, I will use ice and electricity to make magnetic, which is plus 75% against all shields. For infested, I'll come back to this build, just because you're doing plus 75 against fossilized, which is your ancient disruptor, toxic ancient, and even Lephantis. And these guys are the ones with the high HP. I would recommend this setup for probably all melee weapons. There are a few exceptions. With the Glaive Prime, I'll probably take out Fever Strike, put in Whirlwind, just for a better, fast return, so you can do more damage. with the do Icus. Now this one's debatable and it's really up to preference because back in the days the do Icus really benefited from a crit increase as well as Berserker. With this setup, it's doing so much damage already. I don't feel Berserker and an Incrit crit would out damage this build. So for now, I'm still gonna stay with this. I may change my mind later on, but at the same time, you gotta remember, there are different situations, right? And low level, you got one good build, and then in a high level, got different good build. With this current setup, it's been really good to me for all the missions I've done. So unless I can basically see a clearly better build or clearly higher DPS, I like to stick with this build for now. So equipping a stance basically give you more benefit than just additional mod points. You can do combos like the one I just did. But having said that, I wouldn't worry too much about combos at this stage, just because, combos definitely does give you a bit of additional DPS, but it's really more for fun as opposed to really actually, doing it to survive. Because when you are at the point where you need the extra DPS from combo to survive, trust me, you won't be counting on combos, right? And just, the standard hack and slash still does quite a lot of damage and it's still decent, yeah? Most of those things are still the same. You can still do your, slide attacks such as this one. That is not so great with this weapon, but it's extremely good on your sort of do daggers, especially the Nami Skylar. Wall attack is still the same. That's not it, by the way, and that's not it either. Need to find a long enough wall, so I'll try to do it here. Yeah, so your wall attack, like that one's still the same. Basically, at this stage, what I recommend is, do some combos, try it out, it's really fun. But at your, 60-minute T3 survival, don't try to kill enemies with combos. Hack and slash if you can. Use your primary weapon at a distance if you can. So basically, a bit more on channeling. The way it works is at base, so with no mods, it takes 5 energy per hit. You can keep your left mouse button pressed and you can strike E. It won't take you any energy unless you hit a target, right? So with this setup, you get focus energy plus 40, corrupt charge minus 40. These two cancel each other out, so you just get a plus 60% efficiency. 60% of 5 at 3. So with this setup, you are doing or costing you 2 energy per hit. Now there's a lot of interesting setup you can actually play around with channeling. One setup that is quite fun to play with is the Life Strike mod. So the way that mod works is at max you're doing 20% life steal per hit, but you're doing a negative 140% channeling efficiency. It's quite good, I guess, if you're playing solo, but if you're in a team, doing your 60-minute, 70-minute T3 survival, you definitely want that energy for other purposes. Your molecular prime, your blessing, your desecrate, your raw, all that kind of good stuff. But other than that, yeah, I would definitely stick to this kind of build. So, in conclusion, my thoughts on Melee 2.0, is it better than Melee 1.0? Yes. Is it more fun to play? Yes. Could the game be better? Definitely. Now, the main concern or issue I have with Melee 0.0 isn't actually with Melee 0.0. It's with the fact that for sort of advanced players or end-level players like myself, the game of Warframe is already extremely easy, right? The only challenge I get these days is from your 70-80 minute T3 survival. And the fact that they buffed Melee just makes that even easier, right? Because one of the things you had to think about or consider before was ammo efficiency. Now, Melee being more usable and feasible. Um, I wouldn't say allow you to ignore ammo efficiency because your primary and secondaries generally are still stronger at max build. But because melee is so versatile now, it definitely allows you to be a bit more lenient as far as primary and secondary weapons go. So what that means is they just made an easy game even easier. They probably should buff enemies a bit, give a bit more better rewards, even if they just double the amount of credits they gave in a mission, just to make it a bit more harder, makes it a bit more challenging for in-game players. That'll definitely make the game more fun. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you got any good ideas. There's definitely a lot of fun gameplay with channeling, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers!